जिंदा खुदा से दिल जो लगाते तो खूब था,
जिंदा खुदा से दिल जो लगाते तो खूब था।
मुर्दा बुतों से जान, मुर्दा बुतों से जान छुड़ाते तो खूब था।
Right, may I please request Bilal Bonsu to do the tilawat.
Assalamu alaikum. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. إن الذين يجادلون في آيات الله بغير سلطان أتاهم كبر مقتا عند الله وعند الذين آمنوا كذلك يطبع الله على كل قلب متكبر جبار. Translation: I seek refuge with Allah from Satan the accursed, in the name of Allah, the gracious, ever merciful. Those who dispute concerning the signs of Allah without any authority having come to them from Allah. Grievously hateful is this in the sight of Allah and in the sight of those who believe. Thus does Allah set a seal upon the heart of every arrogant, haughty person. Jazakumullah.
Okay, Jazakumullah. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wahdahu la sharika lahu wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluhu. Amma ba'du, fa'awzu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Assalamu alaikum. Right, today the topic will continue with the allegations, and one of the allegations is that why we as Ahmadis don't perform the Hajj. So again, the usual thing, I will do a talk and then we'll open it up for comments or questions, and you can either send a message through the chat board or raise your hand or just speak, and inshallah we'll give you that opportunity. Right, so as I said, this is an objection, and the objection is that why Ahmadis do not go for Hajj. Instead, they say that we go to our holy places of Qadian and Rabwa. Whereas Hajj is a pillar of Islam, which Ahmadis disrespect, and they show more love for their own places rather than that where the Holy Prophet was born. Therefore, they are not Muslims through their actions. So this is the objection that is raised in different ways, but this is one of the ways in which they will raise it, where not only are they saying that we don't do Hajj, but also that we prefer to go to Qadian and Rabwa and do pilgrimage there. And so, again, this is one way that they're trying to justify that we can't be Muslims because we're not doing this pillar of Islam. So, what is the response? Of course, the main thing is that how can Ahmadi Muslims go for Hajj when it's the Muslims themselves who are actually preventing them from doing the Hajj? Of course, this is which we all believe that every Muslim must perform the Hajj once in their lifetime. This is what is an obligation upon every Muslim. And there are three reasons which they may not be able to do the Hajj. One is if the way is prevented, whether there's a war or people are stopping you from doing the Hajj, like they're stopping us. Second is ill health, although some people, they go to die, they should not do so. So if you've got poor health, then of course you can't do the Hajj. And the third reason is you can't afford it. Unfortunately, they usually hike the prices up during Hajj time, and so it becomes more expensive to do it. You have to get a place to stay. You have to get a guide. And then, of course, you've got to make sure that the people you're leaving behind are in a good condition. And you can't do it whilst you are in debt. Now, for Ahmadi Muslims, the condition here is that we are prevented from going to Hajj because the Saudi Arabian government will prevent us from going. If they know we're Ahmadis, they will stop us. But of course, furthermore to that, in Pakistan, before you do Hajj, you have to sign a form, whether it's Hajj or whether it's Umrah. And on that form, you have to declare that you do not believe in Hazrat Mirza Muhammad alayhi salam. In fact, you believe that he is a false prophet. So this has to be signed before you can go for Hajj or Umrah. So, of course, no Ahmadi Muslim can sign such a form. How can we possibly say this, that we're declaring that Hazrat Mirza Muhammad is a false prophet? So, this is the thing, that they are trying to prevent us from doing Hajj, and no one should be able to do that. Everyone has the right to do this. As I said, this is a pillar of Islam, and you do it purely for the sake of attaining the nearness and blessings of Allah. And so therefore, all worldly things should be left behind. This is in fact why you wear the ihram, that even in your clothes, they should be the same as everybody else. They should be two white unsewn clothes. And so it reflects that you've left everything behind. There shouldn't be no fashion or anything like this. You shouldn't be displaying riches or anything like this. Everyone is equal. Now, sadly, we do see sometimes Muslims going there with banners and things like this and doing politics and stuff like that. But really, Hajj should be purely for the sake of Allah. And all Muslims should be striving for that objective. So if that's the case, why are they then bringing this politics in of saying who you are, whether you can do Hajj or not? So this should never be the thing. If someone has said that they believe in the kalima, La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah, then they declared that they are a Muslim. So who can then say that they're not Muslims? If they say I'm not a Muslim, then yes, of course, Saudi Arabia or Pakistan or some other government may be allowed to stop them from doing the Hajj because it's for Muslims only. But if they declare themselves to be Muslims and they recite the kalima, then it's not for any person to say that, no, you're not a Muslim. We know better. This is not the way. So at the end of the day, it's between you and Allah. Only Allah will judge whether you are a Muslim or not. And it's not for any Saudi Arabian government or Pakistan government to decide themselves who is a Muslim and who isn't. So that being the case, therefore, they have no right whatsoever to prevent us from doing Hajj or Umrah. And then after they have prevented us from doing the Hajj, they've got the nerve to say that we're not Muslim because we don't do the Hajj. I mean, this is just pure nonsense. The fact is that for many Ahmadi Muslims, actually they do go and perform the Hajj. But of course, they can't do it from Pakistan because they are prevented by Pakistan. But alhamdulillah, there are many countries in the world who don't have that narrow-mindedness like in Pakistan. And so therefore, they can go from England, from America, or many other countries where they don't have to sign these wonderful forms. They don't have a passport saying whether they're Muslim or not. And they can just go there and do the Hajj or the Umrah. They don't have to declare, of course, that they are an Ahmadi Muslim. If someone asks them, of course, you should not deny it. But this is not part of Hajj that you have to declare which sect you belong to. You are going for Allah, and that's the reason why. And they should understand this. Now, the fact of the matter is that there is over 73 different sects in Islam. And of course, all these different sects, they have different beliefs. So who is the right belief? Is it the Sunnis that have the right belief? If so, then no Shiites can go and do the Hajj because they don't follow the same beliefs. And then, of course, what kind of Sunni Muslim is it? Because we see there's Wahhabis and there's alhajis and there's so many other different groups. So all those Sunni Muslims who don't follow their own brand or a particular brand of Sunni belief, then they should not go to Hajj. So this is the ridiculous thing that has happened, and sadly is showing the poor state of Islam. So, as I said, this is the thing that we see so many different sects, and who can define who should be going for Hajj and who shouldn't be. This is not for any state, any country, or anything like this to declare this is the case. Now, the fact, as I've put up here, that we're not the only ones who's been prevented from doing the Hajj. In fact, the Holy Prophet Muhammad, he was also prevented from doing the pilgrimage by the Quraysh. So we are, in fact, in the same company as the Holy Prophet Muhammad. Alhamdulillah, that's a very blessed company. Now, concerning going to Qadian or Rabwa, of course, no Ahmadi Muslim goes to these places to do the pilgrimage. That's a nonsense thing. No doubt, of course, Qadian was the place where Hazrat Mirza Ghulam Muhammad alayhi salam was born. Therefore, Ahmadi Muslims likes to visit that town. But we don't go there for pilgrimage instead of Mecca. And of course, the same is for Rabwa. So the Holy Kaaba, that is the most important place for any Muslim to go. And it's far more important than going to Qadian or Rabwa. Because this was the first house that was built for the worship of one God. So therefore, we've been commanded by the one God to go there for his sake. That we can't do, and we can never replace that by going to other towns and doing pilgrimage to those particular places. No matter how important we feel that is, this we can't do. So this is a nonsense objection that they've raised. Right, so that's the talk on this, and there is another subject if we need to go on to, but first it's your time now for any questions or any comments that you may have. Maybe again, you have come across this and this is how you've answered. Maybe you've answered a different way. Maybe you've gone on Umrah or Hajj. Maybe you want to relate your particular incidences. So now I'm opening it up for anybody else. So is there anyone who has anything they want to say about this?
Assalamu alaikum, Rabi Sahab. My son, he's sitting with me. He want to ask a question if you allow him.
Yes, of course.
Assalamu alaikum.
Welcome, sir.
So you said that if you say that you're a Muslim, but from this country and you don't declare that you're an Ahmadi, they let you go for Hajj. But what? So if you do say that you're an Ahmadi, will they deny your entry to Saudi Arabia?
Yes, unfortunately. I mean, if someone recognizes you and knows that you're an Ahmadi, they may go to the Saudi Arabian authority and say, look, there's an Ahmadi there. And the police will then come to you and ask you, are you an Ahmadi, and so on and so forth. And they can stop you. Of course, Sir Muhammad Zafar Khan, he was, although he was Foreign Minister of Pakistan at the time, but he was welcomed to do the Hajj, and they invited him there. But this is mainly politics, and they do, if they are aware that you're an Ahmadi Muslim, then they can stop you. But as I said, it doesn't mean you have to go there and declare, put a badge on saying I'm an Ahmadi Muslim. You're going there for Hajj or Umrah, and you're doing it for God's sake. But of course, if someone asks you, we should not deny that we're an Ahmadi. We're not meant to lie. So if you've got no other choice, then of course you've got to tell the truth. You've got to say, yes, I'm an Ahmadi Muslim. But hopefully that won't be the case. But this is sometimes what happens. Sometimes people recognize you who are doing Hajj, they know that you're an Ahmadi, and so they go to either the Malvis or the people in authority and cause problems. And of course, again, we're going for Hajj, so it's not to create a big scene. We don't want to start, making a big issue and start swearing or anything like this. We're going there for Hajj. So if the government tells us we can't do Hajj, then we have to obey that. Any other person wants to say anything?
Ravi Sahib, I got one question. This is in relation with the first question. If someone recognize you in Mecca and inform the police, can you be imprisoned by being an Ahmadi?
Um, I don't know if you'll be imprisoned. You could be stopped doing the Hajj or the Umrah. Whether it's a crime, who knows? I don't believe, I've never heard of anybody being arrested and put in prison. Stopped, sometimes it happens, very rarely. Many people do the Hajj or the Umrah, and there's not a problem, even if they're recognized. Sometimes the people recognizing him understands that the person doing Hajj or Umrah, they understand that we're Muslims. But there are fanatics. I've never heard of anybody being arrested. It may have happened. I don't know.
I got another question, Rabi Sahib. Is it legal for Ahmadis to go? Because the government is saying no, but Ahmadis are going. So is it still legal to go?
As a Muslim, it is legal to go. So we are Muslims. No matter what they say in Pakistan or anything like that, they can't declare you a non-Muslim. They made it a law, but it's nonsense. We see the example, and you can use this example of Osama. That one time a person, he was fighting and he was just about to kill that person, and that person declared the kalima, la ilaha illallah way. He just said the first part, la ilaha illallah, that there's only one God, and he believes in that one God. But Osama killed him anyway. And when that got to the Holy Prophet Muhammad, he kept on repeating, did you see inside his heart? How do you know that he did not really believe this? This could be an opportunity for him to declare his faith, or he could have been lying. So if anybody declares the kalima shahadat, ashadu an la ilaha illallah wahdahu la sharika lahu wa ashadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluh, then that's it. They declare they're a Muslim. And it's not for anyone to say that they're non-Muslims. So legally, we are Muslims. We're allowed to do the Hajj. And that is a legal thing that it's for Muslims. For non-Muslims, yes, that's a different thing. But it's not for the Saudi government or anybody else to declare that we're non-Muslims when we declare ourselves to be Muslims. So no, you shouldn't worry about that. You're not breaking the law. Sometimes when you're going against God, then you have to go in favor of God. So if your parents, for instance, say, don't pray, then because that's against God, then of course you can and you should go and carry on praying. The Hajj is a pillar of Islam. It's obligatory for all Muslims. And we are answerable to Allah. So if we can go, then of course we should try and go. Anyone else got any comments?
I got one more question, Ravi Sahib.
Yeah, please.
Is it preferable to go for Hajj or Umrah? Which one is the preference?
Hajj is always it's compulsory for Hajj. Umrah is a voluntary, it's a nafil. It's a lot of people, they will join up both, or they will go and do Umrah first just to go through the Hajj ceremony to get the practices and know and understand the ceremony. But Hajj is the one that we all must do. So given the opportunity, you should always do the Hajj. But as I said, you can join it up. So some people, they will go, they do the Umrah, and then they will continue and do the Hajj. Or some people will just keep going for Umrah throughout the year, because Hajj is obviously on a fixed particular days. And you shouldn't really do Hajj more than once. The only way of getting around that is sometimes you're doing it for other people. But really, if you do the Hajj properly, then you only do it once in a lifetime. But Hajj, we must try and do. This is an obligation on every Muslim.
I got another question. Is it right for Saudi authorities to ban non-Muslims from visiting Mecca to observe historic Muslim places?
Well, of course, I mean, it is a haram place, so it's not meant to be for non-Muslims. Depends on what their intention is. But obviously, the main purpose of doing the Hajj and Umrah is to go there to worship the one God. Now, if they are non-Muslims, why are they going there? Sometimes there may be film crews or things like this. And again, that's really up to the authorities whether they decide to allow them to go or not. But a non-Muslim performing Umrah or Hajj, then you've got to question that why they're doing it, because obviously this is a practice for the Muslims. So it's not for us to make too much judgment. This is for Allah to make the judgments. But normally these days, they don't allow the non-Muslims to come for Hajj or Umrah.
Jazakallah Rabbi Sahab. We have another question. Are we allowed to pray in congregation, or do we have to offer prayers individually in Mecca while performing Hajj or Umrah?
Okay, well, we answered this last week, but alhamdulillah, it's come up again, so no problem. You are not allowed to join the congregational prayers being led by a non-ahmadi imam. So, of course, generally what happens there is that for each prayer, the imam will start and people will join in. But as I said last week, many different groups, they don't join in those prayers. They do their own separate prayers. So that shouldn't happen at the same time. But of course, you can go and do tawaf, you can do zikrullah and things like that, and then wait for the prayers to be finished. And then in your own group, you can do the congregational prayer. So if there's a few ahmadis, then they can pray together. And like I say, the Shiites, that's normally what they do. In some other Muslim sects, that's normally what they do. But as we said last week, we're not allowed to pray behind a non-ahmadi imam. And that also applies for Hajj. So in this case, just avoid the prayer, do something else, and then do your prayers either separately or in congregation afterwards. Okay, more questions?
Rabbi Sahab, I got one more question. Why are we not allowed to have Hajj more than once?
I mean, it's obligatory for a Muslim to perform Hajj once in their lifetime. So this is what we understand. If you do it properly, some people like say the Hajj is not, they bring politics and other things into it. They go for the wrong reasons. They just go for the title, I'm a Haji and stuff like this. So Allah knows your true intention. And of course, if you haven't done it properly, then you'll need to do it properly. But why only one? Nowadays, we see that there's so many Muslims in the world that, in fact, at Hajj time, it's usually 1 or 2 million people go and do Hajj. This year, of course, it was because of social distancing, quite small. But generally, 1 or 2 people, a million do it Hajj. And still, not everyone can do the Hajj. So if people keep repeating, then obviously it's taken away the chance for someone else. But in the time of the Holy Prophet, of course, there were fewer Muslims, but I'm not sure why he has told us that we can only do Hajj properly once. As I said, one way around it is sometimes doing it for other people. If you're a child and you're not mature yet, then it's not counted. And once you become mature, then you do it again. But generally, this is what we're told, that you should only do it once in your lifetime. And that's the main thing. You can do Umrah as many times as you like. So if you want to keep doing Umrah, and obviously people, especially those that are working in the Middle East, they often go and do Umrah. But Hajj, we should only do once in a lifetime. This is what we're told.
I got a few more questions, Rabbi Sahib, with your permission, if I
Yeah,
can
yeah, good. That's the whole idea. Yes, please.
Will there ever be a time when the Khalifa Waqt can do Hajj, can go for Hajj?
Inshallah. Of course, the first Khalifa and the second Khalifa did do the Hajj. These days, because of naturally the laws and things like that. So if the Khalifa did Hajj now, he will be stopped. There's no doubt about that. But we hope and pray that the Muslim world does wake up, and that this wonderful blasphemy law of Pakistan gets removed, and this idea that we're non-Muslims get removed, and it will be acceptable for all Ahmadi Muslims to do the Hajj. As I said, the Holy Prophet Muhammad, he was also prevented, but there came a time, of course, with the conquest of Mecca, where they were freely allowed to do the Hajj. And we hope that, inshallah, very soon, that will happen for Ahmadiyya as well. So, of course, when that happens, the Khalifa, I'm sure, will do the Hajj. But at the moment, if he did it, then, of course, that would put danger for him. So it's not practical for him to do it at the moment. But we hope and pray that that time will come soon.
Jazakallah, Rabbi Sahib. Next question is, can you do Hajj on behalf of any deceased person?
I mean, if they haven't done the Hajj, then I think you can do. Normally, you do it for a person who's alive, but sending on blessings for that particular person. Normally, what happens is that when you do it for someone else, then they pay for you to do the Hajj for them. As I said, the cost is quite high and things like this. And there's a reason why they can't do it. Of course, with the promise of Sallallahu, ill health was the main thing for him. And then, of course, later on, it became difficult because of the politics and stuff like this. But a deceased person, I believe you can do it for a deceased person, but normally you do it for the living.
Jazakallah, Rabbi Sahib. Next question. Some people add the title of Haji or Al-Hajj to their names after they have performed their Hajj. Is this the correct Islamic practice?
They're allowed to do it, of course, because they performed the Hajj, so they're declaring that they're a Haji. And of course, when we look at the first Khalifa and the second Khalifa, they did have the title Al-Hajj. But it depends, everything's according to your intention. And this is what Allah's going to judge you. That why you put it there. Some people, they put it there so that people think that they're pious and come to the shops and things like that. So on their shops, they're Al-Hajji to try to, for business, to get people there. So if your intention is not good, then of course that's for Allah to decide, and he may decide that that's not a good thing. But yes, if you've done the Hajj, you can declare that yes, you've done the Hajj and have that as a title if you wish. So there's no harm in doing that. But like I say, it depends what is your intention. Why are you doing it? Why are you calling or bringing people to realize that you are Haji? So if your intention is good, then of course, no harm. You've done the Hajj, why not? But if your intention is bad, then of course Allah will not be happy with such a thing. Any other questions?
I have one more question, Rabbi Sahib. If you can do Hajj for someone else, then can you do Hajj twice?
Obviously, I mean, before you do it for someone else, you should do it for yourself. But sometimes it depends on your situation. Obviously, if you can't afford to go, but someone is asking you to do it for them, then yes, that may happen first. But the main thing is that you yourself have to do it, Hajj. So if you've done it for someone else and you haven't done it for yourself, then you haven't done the Hajj. So you can't say that I'm a Haji because you're doing the Hajj for someone else. You're not doing it for you. You can only call yourself a Haji when you've done it for yourself. So, I mean, I know there are some people who have done Hajj many, many times, even in the Midlands. But generally, they've been doing it for other people. So they've done it for themselves, and then they do it for other people. So you can do it, but it's better to do just the Hajj and the Umrah. And if there's, again, a reason why a person can't do the Hajj, then of course you can do it on their behalf. But the reason also has got to be there. I mean, Allah is going to judge you. We've all got to face Allah. And if you could have done the Hajj, but you decided that, I can't be bothered, and so I'm going to get someone else to do the Hajj for me, then Allah's going to judge you on that. So again, your intention should be pure as well.
Jazakallah, Rabbi Sahib.
Okay, Ahmed, do you want to say something?
Rabbi Sahib, so my question was, So you mentioned the Khalifa al-Masih Awwal and second did Hajj and the alhajj. But my question is, did they refer to themselves as alhajj, or is that the title we give to them because when we're referring to them, because obviously they did Hajj?
No, they refer themselves as Al-Hajj. Obviously, with the first Khalifa, he's also got Hakim, because he was a Hakim. He's Mulvi as well, but he also used the title Al-Hajj. And Hazrat Mirza Bashiruddin Mahmud Ahmad, the second Khalifa, also says Al-Hajj. So, I mean, it's there. I mean, it's up to yourself whether you want to declare it or not. You don't have to declare that you've done the Hajj. But obviously, this is a requirement for every Muslim, and it's good to tell people that you've done the Hajj, and that inspires other people then that they should also be doing the Hajj. So yes, they did have it. You'll see in the books, our books, you'll see the title Al Hajj there. Unfortunately, the other Khalifas couldn't do it because obviously the difficulties against us. But for the first and second Khalifa, of course, the first Khalifa, he was a famous person anyway before he became the Khalifa. And so he was a saintly person and well known. And of course, the second Khalifa, mashallah, he did it quite young, but again, alhamdulillah, he had the opportunity and he took that opportunity. And I mean, in the early days, I mean, there wasn't this restriction as there is nowadays. Nowadays, the law has come, I think, since they've declared us as non-Muslims and they put this there. But I don't believe that is always there. It's something which I think only in the last 30, 40 years in Pakistan it's happened. It didn't happen in India as far as I know. I might be wrong, I don't know, but as far as I know. Toby, you want to say something?
Exactly. Assalamu alaikum, Rabbi Sab, and all the rest of missionaries and Da'in. I think Rabbi Sab, as you beautifully said, in regard to the Hajj, I will say this from the African point of view, is that sometimes, sadly, that those who have gone to Hajj and they have come back, they end up doing so much things actually in regard to think that they are holy, like as Murab Sab said. They will come to the shop that they want to bless the shop, they want to bless the business, they want to bless the marriage, they want to bless that. Obviously, alhamdulillah, that by the Jamaat appearance now, especially in Africa and the rest of the world, all of these things are trying to vanish, but that is exactly what Murabi Sab was actually saying. Maybe to other continents like in the Asia, I'm not very familiar with that, but you will hear about the Pir, where they people doing jadus and this and that. But the Hajj, particularly in Africa, they indulge themselves in so many things which you cannot even think of being Islam. And you just wonder, is this what they learned when they want to Hajj, so that they call again to think that they are so special? But as Murabi has said beautifully, that what is actually important is the taqwa which you have in your heart. And Allah, the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, as he says that God looks into our heart. But some of these individuals have actually gone out of the way. They come back. You will see people flopping back, taking this, or pray for this, whatever particular thing, bless it, take back. So almost at the time, even before the advent of Islam. So that is what I wanted to add, Murabi Sab, in regard to the Hajj, what damage they do actually, some of them, when they come back, particularly in the African continent. Exactly.
Of course, it can work the other way around as well. When we see Malcolm X, when he, the Nation of Islam in America, when he went to Hajj, I mean, at that time, they thought Islam was exclusively for black people. And when he went to Hajj and he saw the unity, the brotherhood, and all these different nations there, then he came back a different person. And that is the real Hajj, that when you go there, like all the disciplines in Islam, you should come out of it a much more spiritual, much more higher person than when you went into it. And this, as you're saying, is the purpose of saying that you're al-Hajj. that you should be feeling that. If I'm saying I'm al-hajj, I now am telling the world that, look, I am meant to be a holy person. I've gone to make this sacrifice for God. But if you are doing bad things and you're calling yourself al-hajji, then this is not a good thing at all. So people should realize this, and before they start making such declarations. But a true hajji, a true person who goes there, then he should, like you say, he's doing it for Allah. He should be increasing his taqwa, and it should really affect him throughout his life. And that's why maybe he doesn't need to go and do it again if he's done a true hajj, because you are in the presence of Allah. You've gone to his house and you've totally lost yourself for Allah, and everything you're doing is to win Allah's pleasure. And so you should become much more righteous. And if you haven't achieved that, then as I said, you haven't done hajj at all. Okay, anybody else know so many more chats?
We got a few more questions.
Oh, good.
Do pilgrim exist in many religions? Is this something that existing from a long time?
Yeah, of course. Before Islam, they used to do the pilgrimage. It was different to what it is now, obviously, because they were worshipping idols, and the idols were inside the Kaaba as well as outside the Kaaba. I don't think they did the circuits, the tawaf, because obviously there was idols all over the place. But they used to come from all over Arabia to Mecca to worship their idols. And of course, originally it started with the Hazrat Ibrahim and his son Ishmael, and they were worshipping the one God. So again, they did the pilgrimage there. Other places they go for pilgrimage. It's a different form. Everyone has a different form of pilgrimage. Obviously, in Islam, there are many set things that we do for the pilgrimage. But the main purpose of any pilgrimage is that you're going to a holy place and you're doing it for Allah's sake. And so whether you believe in Allah or you call him by a different name, whatever religion a person's following, that's why they would go and do the pilgrimage. So pilgrimage has always been there, just like fasting has always been there and other disciplines. But it's been more defined now in Islam that this is what we need to do, the clothes we need to wear, the movements we need to do, why we need to do it, the prayers we need to say. So everything is set for Hajj. Every single day you've got a different discipline to do, even if it's just chucking the stone, the pebbles to drive away the shaitans, or doing the hadi, the qurbani, the sacrifice, and things like this. So they're all different things to do each day of the Hajj for the pilgrims. So in Islam, we have a defined way of doing it. But pilgrimage has always been there. As I said, even before Islam, they used to do pilgrimage to Mecca, and that was there, but a different way than what we do now. Any other question you say?
Jazakallah, Rabbi Sahab.
Is that it? I thought you said you had a few.
Alaikum Rabbi Sahab.
Jihan.
Yeah, so apologies, he stopped here. I was disturbing the co-host to send them messages. Rabbi Sahab, it's Maghribi time, and I'm sure that their families are waiting for them. With your permission, I think we can stop there. Next questions, we can maybe, you can answer them next week, inshallah. Rabbi Sahab, please.
Inshallah. Right, so please join me in silent prayer. Good. Bismillah. Ameen.
Ameen. Jazakallah. Assalamualaikum.
Okay, welcome. Assalam.